I'm here today with Andrew Lewis, head of coach development for Starting Strength Gyms and also the owner of Starting Strength Indianapolis. Today, we're going to be talking about the apprenticeship programs at Starting Strength Gyms. The apprenticeship program is integrated into the Starting Strength Gym operations, and apprentices train and coach at a Starting Strength Gym as they complete the coach prep course. Today, we're going to come on here to answer some of your questions if you're considering becoming an apprentice and talk about our coach development program and the process of becoming an apprentice all the way through to the oral board. So Andrew, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to be doing this part of the podcast for us.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's always nice to be able to help out, any prospective coaches. When I first got started, and even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, these kind of resources were not available. And it's a pleasure to be a part of something that's able to help people in that way, to become coaches and to be able to chase their passions.
Yeah. It's exciting to be at this point also in our progress with the gyms, that now we've got a lot of coaches in the development program. A lot of our apprentices have graduated already and become Starting Strength coaches themselves. And so the word is spreading, and I've been getting so many questions about the whole process that I thought, well, let's get on here today and answer some of those questions and talk about the process from beginning to end. And you're the perfect person to have this conversation with because you're responsible for coach development at the gyms. The basic application process is that you read the books, you read the blue book, you'll see behind me, and then you'll read practical programming, and then you'll do the program. And from there, you start to maybe learn a little more, dive into some of the content on the Starting Strength podcast and on the website, read the articles, watch the videos, and then start coaching other people. So those are some of the basics that people have to at least start with. And what would you add to that?
So I would say that those are kind of the bare minimum. If you haven't read the book, if you haven't started linear progression, you need to do that immediately, right? That's the bare minimum. But more than that is you need to have a kind of obsessive passion for this stuff. It's not something that there's some things that you have to kind of grind through and work on and get good at, but mostly what drives progress in coaching is loving it, is being really passionate about helping people. And more than just helping people, it's a passion for problem solving and a passion for learning, that if you don't have that, then it's going to make it a lot harder and a lot less interesting and a lot less fun to go through the coaching process.
Yeah, so I agree with you that you really have to want this as a career, not just like a part-time side gig. This has to be a something you're passionate about. This is all you can think about, is how to get people stronger, and it brings you meaning, and you want to do this full time.
Yep. And I can't speak for all of the gyms, but for me personally, when I've talked to a couple of prospective apprentices for the gyms, and what I tell them is that, because when we do these conversations, we want to go through, I want to know what their long-term goals are and see if that fits with my long-term goals. And basically, for anyone who's looking at doing this kind of as a part-time, like maybe kind of a side gig, that's not something I'm interested in. I want people who are full into this stuff, who are going to eat, sleep, and breathe Starting Strength, and they're going to be passionate about it. And their long-term goal is to be a Starting Strength coach.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so we get some candidates who are already personal trainers or maybe physical therapy assistants, and they are already working with trainees and have started to use Starting Strength method with them. And then I've got people who are just loving the training, the program themselves, and they haven't started coaching anyone yet because they're afraid to practice with someone, right? They're afraid that they don't know enough and they have to be a coach already to do it. So I tell them there's plenty of resources, not only on the Starting Strength website, but with our coach development camps, our mini training camps, which are smaller versions of the seminar. And then there's the resource of forum checks on the forum, the Facebook group. So there's lots of ways where you could educate yourself, get started coaching others, and see if this is for you. See if you're motivated to get more and more people to work as practice trainees with you. Because part of this is educating other people on it. First, you have to educate yourself, and then you'll have to learn how to talk to people about it to get them to practice with you.
Yeah, and I would say that, and this is true for, like, if you are not an apprentice, or if you are an apprentice at a gym, or if you are a coach or starting strength coach or anything, the truth is that you never arrive. Like, you never arrive and it's like, oh, now I'm perfect. Like, that doesn't happen. So you have to just at a certain point have some confidence that you don't know everything, but maybe you know enough to help out a little bit. And if you are really tentative about teaching your spouse how to squat, or your mom how to squat, or a friend of yours how to squat, just go ahead and do it. Like, it's going to be okay for the most part. And if you've been to a seminar, you are better qualified, even if you didn't test, even if you're not a starting strength coach. If you attend a seminar, starting strength seminar, you're going to be better qualified to teach this material than the vast majority of people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so, have some confidence and just get in there and try some things. For the most part, people have a sense of self-preservation. And even if you say the wrong thing, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. And that's how you learn.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that you're bringing that up, and I'm glad that you brought up the seminar, because I often get questions through Instagram, people asking, well, do I have to be opting in as a coach in order to attend the seminar? And I explain what the seminar is about and how it's there for regular people who are just, learning how to do this thing for themselves. They want to come to learn more about the theory and the practice of the model, and they benefit from being on the platform with all of our staff coaches there. And then, once you can come as an attendee, and then once you're in the apprenticeship program, if you choose that route and you are preparing to test out for the first time on the platform, then you will be evaluated as a coach. But it's really best to attend the seminar for the first time, just as a regular attendee, because
Yes.
it's a pretty intense experience.
Yeah. You don't want to opt in the first time you go to the seminar. The thing is if you've read the books and you've been to a training camp and you have gotten coached by a starting strength coach, and you've done like all of the things you can, the fact is that there is nothing like the starting strength seminar. The way the material is delivered is unlike any other medium that we have to deliver this material, and it's quite exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you haven't been, even if you've done all that other stuff, go to a seminar without opting in. You'll learn so much. The day that you get back, you will be a better coach.
Yes.
And the day that you get back, your next session, you'll be a better lifter, without a doubt.
And I like what you're saying, because it's something that always struck me when I was certified under different companies, is that I didn't have anything to do on Monday, and it didn't change what I did with my clients on Monday after attending a seminar on Sunday, or all weekend. And with
Right.
starting strength, it's a completely different picture, and that's because of the way the seminar is structured. And so let's talk a little bit about, if we could give them a picture of what is the seminar like. And I always tell people there's a section for lecture, and then after you learn about the movement, then you go into the room and you perform that movement. And the way the seminar is structured is that there's approximately 5 platforms and 5 coaches, and you're all doing the squat in the at the same time. And so each platform will have 4 to 5 people on it, and you'll work in a round robin format. And the starting strength coach will be there to help you apply the cues that you've just learned. And so you will be practicing applying those cues, whether you're coming in as a coach to be evaluated or a regular attendee. And then someone else will coach you. Now, they're not expecting you to know everything. It's just about getting you to really internalize what you just learned and to start applying it to movement. And then, of course, the starting strength coach is there on the platform to make corrections.
And to be clear, to anyone listening to this, if you are not opting in, if you are not looking to test as a coach, you will still have to coach, but the staff coaches will help you out a lot more than if you are testing. So You still need to coach, because the process of coaching changes the way you think about things. It challenges your understanding in a way that someone just telling you the thing and then you saying, okay, yeah, I got it, and then I'll do the lifts, does not. By you having to look at the person and say, drive your hips up. Okay, no, your hips have to move, keep your chest down. That changes the way that you understand the movement, even if you don't want to be a coach. It
And
makes
that's,
you a better lifter.
yeah, and that's because over a period of time, the more that you're practicing this and doing it yourself, your impression of the model becomes more ingrained with your increased understanding, whether it's physically under the bar yourself or because you've started coaching other people. We're trying to develop your coach's eye, as Steph Bradford has many times talked on with her videos and articles. But at the seminar itself, this is a place for everybody to learn, and some people can opt in to be evaluated, and it's pretty intense, and you know what, you don't always know who's going to be there on the platform with you. And so when candidates are applying for this thing and they haven't been part of our apprenticeship and they don't have access to a gym, I often tell them, try to get a variety of trainees, because at the platform evaluation you will be expected not just to evaluate a 20-year-old who's running their LP, but like, to coach, anyone from 70 years old to 20, and people who are tight in their shoulders, or, can't reach depth, or are having a hard time leaning over, or stiff, or have injuries. And so you better have a volume of experience if you're going to test out on the seminar, at the seminar.
And there's no way to quickly address those problems. Like, so if I get a problem here I've never encountered before, which is pretty exciting actually. But if I encounter a problem here that I've never encountered before, I can spend 10 or 15 minutes like thinking about it, like been testing things and trying stuff out. You don't have time for that in the platform. You got to get these people moving. And so if the seminar, when you're testing, is the first time you've seen that problem, that's a sign that your experience is not where it needs to be. And the recommendation I always make to coaches getting ready to test for the platform is, don't worry about, don't try to like game there's no way to even game the test anyway. So don't try to game the test. Don't try to be what the test will look for. Be a good coach for its own sake, and the test will be fine. The test will handle itself. So if you're coaching a wide variety of people, that's going to make you a good coach. And then as a result, you'll be able to encounter those problems that you've seen before and be able to quickly address them and solve them on the platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're just thinking about getting into this apprenticeship and qualifying for it, I would say that doing the program, reading the books, attending a seminar or training camps, these are all good things to do to help you figure out whether this process is for you, whether the career of coaching is for you. And we say read the books, but I tell people, I had somebody say to me, I listened to the book on audio. And I was like, well, yeah, but if you're training and you're encountering a problem with your own trainee or with yourself, you might want to go back in the book. This isn't the kind of book that you can just read through, right? It's not a novel. You can't just listen to it on audio. This is a resource. This is a reference guide for the rest of your training career, right?
Yep. Yeah, and the diagrams, the pictures and the diagrams in that book, which are they are simplistic and elegant and extremely powerful. And if you're not seeing those, you're just hearing everything, it's not the same experience. And like I remember, I think the second time I read the Starting Strength, the blue book, I must have spent 15 or 20 minutes on one page trying to understand like 2 sentences, because I didn't understand it, and I'm looking at the sentences and I'm looking at the diagram, and I'm flipping back pages to try to like, okay, well maybe there's something earlier that will help me like make sense of it, and then I go back and I'm like, okay, why would that be? And it's not an easy read, especially if you're doing it from like the first time you read it, you can kind of just read through it, but after that it's studying. You have to study this book for the purposes of your understanding and really have a firm grasp on what's going on. And you might spend 20 minutes on one page trying to understand why the adductors are important in the squat and why the toes out in the squat matters. But that stuff is critical.
And the more that you do this thing and the more that you teach this thing to others, the more that obviously your understanding of that book becomes deeper and deeper. I think I've gone through 4 editions of it already because I've read it so many times and referenced it over 10 years. And we talk about doing the program as being a prerequisite. So a lot of times I'll have strength and conditioning coaches speak to me about programs that they've done. And I try to explain the difference between our NLP and what they've been doing and why it's important to do the program, as we often say. And it isn't just to maximize your strength gains, and it isn't just to give you a better understanding of the material. It isn't just so that you could understand what you're seeing in the images in the book, but it's also to see what you're made of. Because to become a starting strength coach, you've got to have grit. I think you have to be somebody that can tolerate hardship, and really running the proper LP will show you what you're made of. And it's kind of a prerequisite for all of us, whether we're working at starting strength gyms or whether we own a gym or we coach at a gym. Doing the program is important for that.
And it also builds that grit and that determination, because if you're already kind of primed to have that, but you don't necessarily have it right now, the process of going through linear progression where you get to the 5th rep of the 3rd set when you've been adding 5 pounds to the bar for the last 4 months, and you have to just tell your brain to shut up and drive your hips out of the bottom, even though you're scared and it's hard and you don't know you can do it. That whole process, because it, just like the weight on the bar, because it's added incrementally, it will grow. It'll grow your determination and your grit and your ability to do this. Now, if you don't have that at all, you're probably not made up. You're probably not made for this anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if you sort of have a little bit of that, you can grow that in the process as well. And you'll see who you are during that and how you respond.
And once you've had that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because if you're scared and you decide to rack the bar after the 4th rep, that tells you something about yourself. I mean, I attended, and we'll talk about this more in a little bit, but I attended the seminar to test 4 times, and I'm a starting strength coach. And what that means is I failed 3 times. I failed the platform 3 times, and over the course of 4 years.
You're in good company.
And if you don't think that is hard on your mind, then and to be able to push through that, then it's just not something. It's not something you'll understand to be able to achieve. But that is hard to do, and it's hard to have that determination.
And it's important for you to have that experience personally so that you can learn how to coach other people through it, not just physically with, physical cueing or verbal cueing, but through that kind of emotional support, right? And mentorship that it takes to become a coach. And a lot of times candidates say to me, well, I've done my LP, and you can see clearly that they've tapped out a little too early. And it's usually because they haven't been in front of a starting strength coach. And so their technique isn't sound, and they're leaving weight on the bar, because they're missing reps too early and could use some feedback from a coach. And so I want people to know that if you don't live near a starting strength gym or a starting strength coach, you can certainly get help online. And I always recommend that they go to startingstrengthgyms.com and look at the training tab, because we've got an online coaching service, and the people that you'll be working with, are coaches at the gyms, and they will certainly give you the feedback that you need. And also you'll see what it's like working with a coach at the gyms and when you eventually want to be one.
And to be clear, online coaching is not the same as in-person coaching. It's a good thing, but they're kind of different things. So if you've had in-person coaching and you're looking at online coaching, don't think it's going to be identical. It's a little different. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, the difference, I literally can't explain. I lack the diction to explain to our audience the importance of technique. And everyone understands technique is important, but on a level that I didn't understand until I got more experience, where the difference between someone stopping LP at 315 and someone stopping LP at 375 might be the difference between you getting them to hip drive correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be just a tiny little thing. And that'll be the difference between 60 pounds of progress, between a month of progress. And again, I cannot express how important these small details are that, and obviously the big stuff as well, how important the technique is in order to drive that progress. And I noticed, because I remember when I was a little more, when I was less experienced, I couldn't figure out, like, why are all my clients' linear progressions ending after 2 months? And I started talking to Mia Inman and a few other coaches, and the answer was I wasn't good at coaching the technique as well as I could have been. And so I got better, and then the people started magically extending out their LP just because I was coaching it right. So the technique cannot be understated how important it is.
Yeah. And, and now we're at this point where people are, really, there's a lot of people who are doing starting strength, and a lot of them are looking to expand their knowledge and see if this career is for them. And so these training camps, and as well as the online coaching, could be, places where they could go and get themselves form checks, in addition to doing an intro session at one of the gyms. I always recommend that if they live near a gym, that they go in person, because of the value that in-person coaching has. It's just far superior. And then you'll also come into the gyms and learn about the apprenticeship and take a look at the whole system and how it works. So coming in for a form check during that early phase in your training, before applying for the apprenticeship, is also a great next step. And so once they have gone through this process, and I talk to them, I do a little bit of like career development conversation with them, and we talk about their future goals, and we talk about how to get there and what the next steps are. And once they have been selected for the apprenticeship, they're expected to join the Starting Strength online prep course, which is an online school. It has an interactive Slack channel where in Slack, you'll have different channels, like the different movements, press, squat, deadlift. It'll also have a place for your own training to be posted. And you'll discuss programming in some other of those chats. And it's
like a private forum.
Yeah, it's really, it's a private forum. It's a really interactive, really useful service. And I thought maybe you could talk a little more about what the prep course itself is, why it was developed, and how we're using it in this apprenticeship to support what's happening on the gym floor with their development.
So that's a great series of topics. The first thing I want to say is all of this educational stuff feeds into everything else. Everything that we're talking about is going to support your understanding of the model, your ability to coach the model, your ability to recognize deviations, and your ability to correct those deviations. And so all of this stuff in different forms feeds back into it. So the seminar, the camps, the prep course, the apprenticeship, reading the book, doing your own lifting, it all feeds into the same stuff. So the way the prep course helps is that it creates a structured way to go through to both teach you and test and develop your understanding of these concepts with 23 modules, each of which has a written assignment and a coaching assignment. And you have a mentor that you're assigned, where they will see your submissions, talk through those submissions with you, the assignment submissions, and then give you feedback on those and help you improve those. And sometimes, you might go through those and you might just crush it. And they see, okay, this guy clearly understands this based on the assignment they put forward, and they're just doing real well. We mostly see those more from starting strength gym apprentices who already have, again, that other component of having a head coach assisting them, seeing a lot of reps, seeing all of these people doing the same model, where if you're kind of coaching on your own, you're hoping you're getting the model right, but maybe you're not exactly right. So we generally see that the starting strength gyms apprentices are able to do a little better as a result of that extra attention and that more focused education. So someone might just kill it and then they pass on that one, they go to the next one. But by the same token, I've had because I'm a mentor as well,
Mhm.
I've had students that I've had to have them take a month to do rework because we're just not getting it right. I've had people redo coaching assignments 4 or 5 times to make sure that it's right and to make sure they understand the key
Mhm.
aspects of that coaching assignment. And so this is not like, and you did this podcast with Ray that just came out
Mhm.
recently, and it's not, this is not a standard class where you do the assignment, you get a grade, you move on, and then okay, you passed with a C. That's not how it works. We will not let you pass and will not let you pass modules until we are sure that you understand these concepts,
Mhm.
because it's all foundational. It all builds on itself.
Mhm.
So you go through those modules, and as you do those, you will be a better coach because your understanding will be reinforced. Your understanding will change. You'll realize there are things that you thought that are wrong. I like to do phone calls with a lot of my students to make sure that they can orally deliver this stuff as well, because they're going to have to talk to clients in real time, not in written word, to be able to explain this stuff. And so that's really important to me.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we'll be going through a discussion and we'll realize there's a gap in their understanding. We correct that, and then they are, just like the seminar. The next day they go back to the gym, they're a better coach because they understand that.
Mhm.
And so the coaching feeds into the model understanding and testing, and the prep course feeds back into the technical understanding and the structured problem solving of the coaching itself and
Mhm.
of the material. The other thing too with the prep course is there's a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of really common things that you're going to explain 1,000 times, because when you get a new client, you're always going to explain, these 8 things in the first month. But you might not ever have to explain to a specific client the the role of the hip flexors and the squat on the work done on the bar,
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm.
You might not have to compare why why is the low bar squat better than the high bar squat, and tell me all of the reasons, and support all of those sub reasons and elaborate on those. So
Mhm.
it's a very detailed, focused understanding on what it is. And so just like the seminar, it stems from the book. Everything we do stems from the book. It's an extension of that.
Mhm.
The book or the prep course is the book in a learning focused environment.
Mhm.
And so you have to work through that stuff to understand all those really important details, but maybe details that you're not going to have to explain every week.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the main focus of it. And one of the recommendations I would say is you want to do the prep course in a decent amount of time. So you want to try to get a module done a week, and you want to be done in about 7 months if you do that. Now, if you don't have a lot of clients, if you only have 2 or 3 clients, it's going to be a little harder. If you're at a starting strength gym, there shouldn't be any problems with that. You should be able to really knock these out and have a lot of people that you can see.
Mhm.
Um, and even though you might finish the prep course in 7 months, 7 or 8 months, and you might not test for the platform for a little bit, that's okay. Because if you get through all that material and you understand all that, you're going to be a better coach.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
as a result, your coaching in the gym is going to be better. You're going to be accelerated in that sense. And then you'll be better prepared for the platform as well and the oral board.
Yeah, and I like how you describe the prep course's relationship to the book itself. What I really like that happens when you walk into a gym as well is that the book sort of comes alive in the gym, right? And all the things you've been reading about, including the quotes, are now being displayed in the gym. And so all of the movements are being done by multiple people. And the advantage of having an apprenticeship at starting strength gyms is that everybody in the gym is doing this one thing. And in addition to that, you have a starting strength coach who's a mentor. So not only do you get a starting strength coach as a mentor in the prep course to help you break down the material, but you then also get a starting strength coach on the gym floor to help you break down movement, and the two collaborate together to help you become very well prepared for getting your credential, for passing through the platform evaluation at the seminars and through the oral board. Um, let's talk a little bit about the oral board, because you just mentioned that it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 months to complete the prep course. And at the end of that time, you should be ready to test during, for the at the platform, whether maybe even you come sooner. But at the end of that, right before you get your credential, you still have to pass through the oral board. Can you tell us a little bit about what that oral board is comprised of, and how best to prepare for it?
Sure. So actually, I want to kind of take a step back and handle it chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could start with kind of how, if you're an apprentice, whether you are an apprentice, whether you are a junior, a young coach, an inexperienced coach working toward your credential on your own, or an apprentice at a starting strength gym, how should you kind of focus your attention, and what kind of steps should you be going through? Not as like a hard proceduralized kind of thing, but generally, what do we see?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I'll kind of talk about the platform and the oral board, if that's okay.
Yes.
So when you first start out, and this is the reason I brought up my failure, my obstacles in acquiring the credential, is because it is very illustrative of the four aspects of coaching, which is understanding, teaching, evaluating, and communicating. I should have gone left to right for the camera, but it's too late now, so whatever. Uh, so what happens is, in the beginning, you have to have all those four to get your credential. And when I first started, at every single seminar, I only had the next step. So at my first seminar, I understood. I could absolutely rattle off a lot of the stuff about the book, and about why low bar squatting is good, and why you want to get stronger in the stress recovery adaptation cycle, and all that stuff. So I had a lot of the understanding, but I couldn't teach the method. In the second seminar I went to, I could teach the method pretty well, but my coaching eye was not very developed. So I couldn't see deviations from the model. I knew what the model was, I know what I wanted, but I couldn't see that they weren't doing the model, and therefore I couldn't correct it.
Mm-hmm.
And in my third seminar, I understood, I could teach the model, and I could see the deviations, but I couldn't fix them quick enough. I couldn't communicate in a way to be able to fix this stuff in an effective and an efficient manner. And then on the fourth one, I passed because I could do all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have those four things, and those are going to develop, not necessarily in that same kind of segmented way, but there is going to be kind of a process that you're going to notice, where the first thing is, you're not going to be able to see anything, and you're going to understand very little, and you're not going to know how to teach this stuff. And so when you come into a gym, or when you first start coaching on your own, your goal is going to be to try to learn how to see this stuff first. You're going to develop your coaching eye, see literally just, what are you looking at? Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it the model? What is the model? And in that time, you're going to learn the model as well. You're going to get the understanding, as well as from the prep course. That's going to give you the understanding too. And so practically, when you're at the gym, you need to be working on, what are you seeing? Is it the model? If it's deviating from the model, what do you think needs to happen in order to fix that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next couple of things you're going to notice, and these are kind of fluid, you're going to start teaching some of this stuff. So maybe you're going to start by teaching the bench press. Maybe you're going to teach the squat to someone who already kind of knows how to squat a little bit, and just understand the different steps and the different parts to that. And then you're just going to keep rolling the stuff in more and more. So your first focus is going to be on notice things. Just notice stuff and understand what is happening. And then you're going to get more into being able to teach this stuff. And then you're going to get into being able to communicate. You're going to be able to close the deviation between reality and what the model is. And hopefully, if you get those together, then they're doing the model, and they have correct mechanics. They're doing things safely and effectively in order to get strong. And then you'll have all those four components together. So in the beginning, if you feel overwhelmed by this whole process, remember, you're just trying to understand and notice things. Don't get stressed out that you can't fix 1,000 things at once, because we don't expect you to. No one expects you to. You're a junior coach. You don't know what the hell you're looking at. that's how everything starts. That's how I started as well. Um, and so those are kind of the things you want to focus on as you're getting started. And then also, just all the normal things associated with being a person in a service-based situation. Be amiable, greet people, um, develop friendships and relationships with these people, and that'll help everything as well.
Mhm.
It is impossible, I would say, long term, to be able to coach someone that you have like disgust for, or that you really don't like. And so what invariably happens is a lot of these people that you coach become your friends, and they become people you trust and you confide in, and they confide in you, and you have these good conversations. Like I said, you become friends. So when you've gone through all that and you're getting ready for the platform and for the oral board, you need to think about what each of these are. And what the platform is the platform is you are being uh, they're trying to identify if you are a ready starting strength coach. So Rip says this all the time at the seminars. He says this online. The starting strength seminar does not create coaches. It identifies existing starting strength coaches. So when you show up to the seminar, you either are a starting strength coach or you are not. And they will identify which one you are. And you might not know which one you are yet. You might find out at the seminar.
Mhm.
And so what you do is you come in and you go through the Friday lectures, you go through the squat lecture Saturday morning, and then they send you off to do the squat, and they're going to watch you teach the squat to this person. They're going to give you someone who maybe has never done this before. Maybe they've got some physical limitations that you have to be able to overcome and you have to address. And they're going to see how you handle that and how quickly you can get them moving according to the model.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then they add the bar, they add weight, they add weight, they add weight, and so on. And everyone just cycles through. And like I said earlier, when you are testing, you get left alone a lot more. The coaches are watching you
Mhm.
to do what they would do. And your goal when you show up at the seminar is to be as good, if not better, than the staff coaches there.
Mhm.
They need to be able to in their minds think, I could just walk away from this guy, and the
Mhm.
guy he's working with will have a fine squat once we get up to weight, and I have no concerns about that. That's your goal, and that is show up, do your job, and coach well, and you'll be
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm.
And then the same process happens with the press, the bench, the deadlift, and the power clean, not in that order.
Mhm.
And by the end of it, they go through and they look at how you did in all of those lifts and decide if you pass the platform or not. Now,
Mhm.
once you pass the platform, which is an extremely challenging event, I don't remember the actual numbers on it. I think the pass rate at one time was like it was like something absurdly low. It was like 5 or 10%. I and don't
Yeah,
quote me
we
on
would
it.
have we would have seminars at the gym, at my old gym, where nobody passed. It's
Yeah.
just like people would opt in and not pass. And I to your point, I would like to say that what's great about the apprenticeship at the gyms is that it gives you the mentorship on the gym floor to instantly get feedback on
Yeah.
the things that you've been applying to your trainee, or the things that you're seeing, right? First of all, not only are you getting a bunch of people doing starting strength shift after shift, group after group, but you're also getting a coach right next to you who's already been through this whole process, and who has achieved their credential, and who's overcome this struggle, and now is also ready to teach it, to be a mentor themselves. And so you have the advantage of having them right there, uh, correcting what you're seeing and teaching you on the spot. And at the apprenticeships at the gyms, you want to be there as much as possible. People ask me, well, how many groups should I attend? And I'm like, well, I guess a minimum of 4 groups a week. And in addition to you coming in and training with the team, but like, if possible, depending on the structure of the gym, you should want to be there as much as possible to watch as many people as you can move, because that's what will really prepare you for the platform evaluation.
More is
And
always better.
yeah, always, it's always, and in fact, for people who are not part of our apprenticeship program, and are, living away from a gym, and they are struggling to get clients and practice trainees, I tell them, in this case, volume matters. And so even if you can't get people to commit for a period of time to train with you, if you can get a one and done, somebody to come in and just teach them the squat once and they leave, hey, that's great. If you can teach someone just from the body weight, part of the squat up to the barbell, that's great. Anything you get in the beginning will
Yep.
be an advantage to you, because you're still building your understanding of the basics, and you really have to go through that. And that's where the apprenticeship becomes very valuable at the gyms. And
And
then
if I had been in an apprenticeship and I had said,
oh,
hey, starting strength coach, I'm ready. I'm going to sign up for the platform and I'm going to test. And he would have gone, no, you're not. You are not ready. And I would have gone, oh, okay, I'll wait.
right.
It would have saved me. It would have saved me travel and money
Oh, so
and
much money. I mean,
it would have saved me so much stuff.
Nick D'Agostino and I were coaching. We were coaching together at my gym. We were both learning this thing, reading the book, making mistakes with our clients, and helping each other out. But probably
Yeah.
it was more like the blind leading the willing. And it took us a lot longer than it should have. And the apprenticeship is quite an advantage for new people. And then once you have passed the platform, you'll be cleared to take the oral board, which the prep course also prepares you for. And your time in the gym working with your head coach will also help prepare you for. And that's to have the discussion about the things that you've learned. And give us a little synopsis of the oral board. What does that look like? It's a phone call. Is it like on Zoom? Are you staring?
It's a three-panel Zoom call. Although if you're watching this from the future, maybe Zoom will be obsolete.
Definitely.
Have you ever heard of Skype?
It'll be a hologram.
Yeah, it'll be something different. Hope Skype comes back. It's a 3-panel Zoom interview, and it's not an interrogation. That's one of the. It'll feel like it, but it's not. Like the people, they're going to have a series of questions for you pertinent to programming, the models, obviously the squat, the press, the deadlift, all that stuff. And you have to be able to give very technical and pedantic and precise answers to these questions, because you have to be right. And it's not an interrogation in the sense that they're going to grill you and then you're done. They are going to help you walk through the question. So if you answer incomplete, they're going to say, well, what do you think about this aspect? Tell me about the role of this in the squat. And then that'll kind of give you a jumping off point to then further elaborate on kind of what they're getting at and what they want to hear from you, as far as the level of detail they're looking for. And it is long, it is difficult, it is very stressful, but if you prepare adequately, you'll do fine. If you can talk in front of people, and if you have answered a lot of these questions, that's the biggest thing, is you have to answer this stuff a lot. I have a very distinctive memory of driving to jiu-jitsu in my car, talking about physical concepts I've been studying for 12 years, because
talking to myself
talking to myself at my dashboard. And because I got a degree in mechanical engineering, I know what compression and tension and moment are. Like I understand that stuff. And then I went to explain it, and I was like, this is not good. And so you'll discover in the process of trying to explain something verbally, you're going to discover that what you thought you really in depth understood, you didn't understand as well as you should be able to. Because you need to be able to explain this stuff to people. You need to be able to explain this stuff to clients in a simple, clear way. If you get into a ton of jargon to try to show how smart you are and just cover it up, the oral board, I almost said interrogators, the oral board interviewers, the people asking the questions, are going to identify that immediately. They're going to know you're full of shit. They're going to know that you're bluffing, and they're going to realize you have no idea what you're talking about. So take the time, explain this stuff to anyone who will listen, talk in your car, at your dashboard, get a little rubber ducky and put it on your dashboard and just explain it to that.
Get a flat rip.
Yeah, exactly. Just get a tiny little, if you want to do a Build-A-Bear and then put Rip's face on a cardboard cutout on it or something like that. With You can even get the little sound microchip and have it say hip drive or something.
Oh God, don't give me any
Um,
ideas. I'm going to send it over.
so so that's what you need to be doing is you need to be explaining this stuff a lot, just like getting a ton of reps with seeing someone lift, seeing deviations, cueing a correction, and seeing that correction. You need a lot of reps with explaining this stuff to the point where, like, I can't even tell you how many times where someone will see another client doing rack pulls, and they'll say, "Oh, like what's that exercise?" And I can just throw out, well, the rack pull is a partial movement that we do after the deadlift becomes too stressful, because at a certain point, the deadlift becomes so stressful that you can't recover from it in enough time to actually be able to make progress. And so we're going to split that up into two movements where the rack pull is from just underneath the knee to the top of the deadlift, and the halting is from the bottom to just above the knee. So you get about 3 inches of crossover where you're training that full range of motion and that strength in that area to be able to continue making progress while spreading out that stress a little bit in order to be able to recover. And if you haven't explained this stuff like 1,000 times, it's not going to seem natural, and it's not going to be clear. And the stuff needs to be clear. It needs to be correct and precise.
And the prep course will prepare you for that with their discussions that they have on calls, and the work that you're doing with your mentor. And I was just thinking when you were speaking, another question that I get frequently is how much should I study? How much time should I allot for the prep course every week? In addition to the time that you'll have to spend on the gym floor, you're also going to have to put aside time for something that really, I don't know if it's fair to say that it equates a 3 credit college course, but, approximately. But really, how much time every day should people expect to spend on this?
So the first thing I would say is I can't tell you how much time you're going to need. It's going to be a range. Typically, what we see is people who have STEM backgrounds, people who have writing backgrounds, they are able to articulate this stuff and think about this stuff quickly and write it down in a clear way. They're going to be a little faster. People, especially people with physics backgrounds, they're just going to be a little faster. Anatomy backgrounds, biology, stuff like that. So I can't tell you precisely, but I would say that I think between 4 and 8 hours a week is reasonable. I think that's a reasonable amount of time to be spending on the prep course I would say per module. We'll say 4 to 8 hours per module, 4 to 8 hours per module. And what I would highly recommend is, just like you have a schedule for your work at like your full-time job, or if you're just doing the apprenticeship, you have a schedule for the apprenticeship, or if you're doing a sport, you have a schedule for your sport. Get a schedule for your prep course time. So even if it's artificial, even if you make it up, where you say, okay, every Monday, so I get out of classes at this time, I'm going to spend from 8 to 9 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday working on the prep course material. And then that's when I show up, and that's when I do that time. So schedule time to dedicate to this, because if it's just free time, you won't dedicate the time to it. Almost certain.
Right. Right.
So
This is really, if you're planning for this to be your career, you're going to dedicate all of your free time to it. And you really have to have that free time every day to work towards your goal of becoming a starting strength coach, at the gyms. I think that people who are hesitating and they're not sure whether they're ready for the apprenticeship, I think it's important that they go through this whole process that we've just outlined at the beginning of doing the program yourself, making sure that you've been seen by a starting strength coach. If you can't get to in person, make sure you get to them for some online feedback. But make sure that someone is checking out your lifts and how you're doing the movements so that you can maximize your LP. Read all the material that's being put out, dive into the content, the videos on YouTube, and then start coaching other people. See if you like educating people about this, talking about it, doing it all day. See if this is the only thing that you want to do. And if that's the case, you can seek out the apprenticeship, and you can apply for the apprenticeship at startingstrengthgyms.com and check out the coaching tab and fill out the form. And then I'll give you guys a call, and we'll talk about, what your next steps should be. And then once you start in the apprenticeship, you can expect to start the prep course immediately, where they will have to dedicate time each day to their studies, as well as time on the gym floor to be mentored and to follow groups until the time that you can start coaching other people and maybe running a group yourself, at which time you'll be ready to test out on the platform and then follow through to the oral board. And we hope that this process takes you no more than a year. Because starting strength gyms is hiring and we need coaches. And so we want this to be a streamlined process and expedited as much as you do. And I would say that's kind of the big picture. Do you have anything that you want to add?
Well, I would say that if you're near a starting strength gym, you need to get in there at least for a drop in, because and you'll get two things from that. You'll get coaching from a starting strength coach, and you'll get to see what does their actual day-to-day job look like? What are you going to be doing if you become a starting strength coach at one of these gyms? And so you'll get a really intimate understanding of what does that look like? What are they doing? What can I expect?
Mhm.
And you might show up, you might spend $20 for a drop in, or I don't know, whatever people are charging, $20 for a drop in, and get done and go, you know what, that I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I don't want to do that. Or you might get done and go, you know what, that looks awesome. That definitely is going to tip me into well, I want to do this camp, and now I'm going to dedicate more time to getting into this. So a lot of the stuff is about more fact finding. It's about understanding better what's going on, and all the starting strength coaches are super happy to talk about this stuff, because we want to see this brand grow. We want to see people be successful and be able to do what we're doing. Like it breaks my heart when I talk to um, like some coaches who are working at like blah 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 fitness, and they are like they're so frustrated and they're so demoralized because they're spending most of their time selling. They don't have consistent clients. The clients they do have, they feel like they're grasping at to even help them like make progress or see obvious progress. And like their bosses are idiots, and it's just I can't it frustrates me so much to see this, that people have to put up with this crap. And I want to see that not be the case. I want people to be successful, and whether you're coaching this method with us or on your own, I want coaches to be good at coaching and to be able to help people and be satisfied with what they're doing, and to be able to get that, because almost everyone who goes into this job wants to help people.
Mhm.
Like most people aren't getting this job like this is the most fiscally viable option for me at this point, and I don't really care about helping people. I don't really like to work with people, but this seems like the best career path from that perspective. Like no, coaches want to help people,
Yeah.
and it kills me when I have to listen to this bullshit about people being in other and not being able to do that essentially. So
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
want to help. So reach out to us if you're on the fence or you have questions. Reach out to Ina, apply for the apprenticeship, and you might find it's not for you, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
if it is for you, we're here to help.
And soon we'll be launching Starting Strength Academy, which is launching in just a couple of months here, and that's really an exciting program that's going to be another way that people who are interested to learn more about strength training, whether they're fitness professionals, personal trainers, aerobics instructors, people who are working with clients who want to learn more about strength training, now they'll be able to do it in a half-day workshop. We'll be launching this in Starting Strength Dallas and moving it along to all the other gyms. And so that'll be another way where people can see if this is for them. And the apprenticeship is there once you've decided to dedicate your life to this. And if helping people become stronger and healthier gives you meaning, and if you want to have your profession taken seriously, these gyms are opportunities for you to work in that capacity as a coach and get satisfied doing a job worth doing in the facility that's designed around your skill of coaching. And we're here to support. Andrew and I always here to support. So, Andrew, thank you very much for sitting down and answering some of these questions for
My
our
pleasure.
future candidates. It's always good spending time with you. And we'll be catching up on some other Q&As as they come in.
All right.